This is one of those stories that just defies all logic. It's not about your typical extremists or, career criminals. No, this is about a terror plot that was orchestrated by brilliant, highly educated doctors, men who took an oath to save lives, but instead they chose to destroy them.
The entire story really hinges on this one absolutely shocking contradiction. You have these men who reached the very top of their fields, celebrated for their intellect, and all the while, in secret, they were meticulously planning mass murder. So the question is, how does someone sworn to heal become a mastermind of hate?
So our story really begins in Kashmir, in a village that was actually nicknamed the Village of Doctors. This is where one of our main figures, Omar-un-Nabi, grew up. His dad was a government teacher. Everyone, and I mean everyone, dreamed he would become a doctor. No one could have possibly imagined he would become one of India's most wanted terrorists.
And look, they weren't just doctors. These guys were prodigies. In the incredibly competitive medical entrance exam, Omar-un-Nabi scored an unbelievable 28th rank in the entire state. That got him a spot at the prestigious government medical college. His childhood friend, Shakil, he also secured a place in medical school. These were the best and the brightest.
Now, here's what's really interesting, and frankly terrifying. The radicalization, it didn't happen in some shadowy hideout. It happened right inside the halls of the medical college. A paramedic named Irfan Ahmad and a teacher, Nasar al-Hassan, they used their positions to prey on students like Umar. They fed them this steady diet of propaganda through encrypted apps, turning their minds against the very country they lived in.
And this contrast just reveals Umar's chilling double life. On the surface, he was a model student. He even ranked first in the state exam for medical officer. That's an incredible achievement. But in the shadows, he was a dedicated terrorist, creating his own Telegram channels to recruit and brainwash other young people, just like he had been.
So, with their medical degrees complete, their radicalization took its next big step. The group needed a new base of operations, somewhere far from the scrutiny of Kashmir. They found what they thought was the perfect cover at Al-Falah University in Haryana. And as it turns out, that institution's dark history made it the ideal camouflage for a terror cell.
And this wasn't just any university. Its very foundation was literally built on crime. The founder, a guy named Javed Siddiqui, started it with money from a massive chit fund scam. He'd done time in jail, his staff and even students had documented links to terror groups, and the entire institution was just systematically defrauding the government for funds it didn't even qualify for. The place was rotten from the inside out.
And let's just pause on the money for a second. Through a whole web of fake construction contracts and shell companies, the university's leadership siphoned off at least 45 crore rupees. The crucial point here is that this wasn't just a place of learning. It was a money laundering machine, which made it perfectly suited to hide something much, much worse.
So inside the walls of this corrupt university, within the student hostels, these doctors began to plan their masterpiece of terror. They even gave it a name: Operation D6.
And just look at how methodically they worked. In December 2021, they embedded themselves as staff at the university. Just a few months later, they were off to Turkey for advanced training in making IEDs and operating drones. They even integrated another operative, Shaheen, through marriage and turned their hostel, Building 17, into a full-fledged command center. And the scale of their plan was absolutely staggering. They weren't planning a single attack. No. They acquired over 1,600 kilograms of explosive material with the goal of building 32 separate car bombs. The final objective? A series of coordinated serial blasts across multiple Indian cities, all on the same day, December 6th.
This was one of their coded messages, sent over encrypted channels. Biryani is ready. Get ready for the feast. When the raw materials for the bombs were successfully acquired and processed, this was the signal. Just a chilling perversion of a celebratory meal to signify readiness for mass destruction.
Their plan was so close to perfect. They were hiding in plain sight, protected by their credentials and the university's own corruption. But the entire sophisticated plot would begin to unravel because of one small, seemingly insignificant detail: a single poster pasted on a wall.
On October 17th, a senior police officer in Srinagar noticed a threatening poster from a terror group. Instead of ignoring it, he launched an investigation. And that one decision set off an incredible chain reaction. CCTV led to some local youths, who then led the police to their handler, Irfan Ahmad, the very same paramedic from the medical college. Once they had him, Irfan sang like a canary, revealing the entire Al-Falah plot. Just 13 days after that poster was spotted, police raided the university.
And what they found, it confirmed their absolute worst fears. Nearly 3,000 kilograms of explosive material, including 358 kilos already processed and ready to be loaded into cars. Operation D6 was not some fantasy. It was just weeks, maybe even days away from being executed. The feast was almost ready.
So, the raid shattered the cell. Muzammil and others were captured, but the mastermind, Omar-un-Nabi, he escaped. Now he's on the run, cornered, and with his grand plan completely in ruins, he launched a desperate, final act of terror all on his own.
For 9 agonizing days, Umar hid in this tiny rented room, and he just descended into this paranoid, almost primitive state. Fearing capture, he never left, living in his own filth, only daring to sneak out in the dead of night for food. His only connection to the outside world was his landlord's Wi-Fi, which he used to contact what was left of his network.
Then, on the night of November 9th, he finally broke cover. This timeline tracks his final, horrifying journey. He drove through the night, withdrew some cash, and then spent the next day just driving aimlessly around the heart of Delhi. Then, at 3:29 p.m., he pulled into a parking lot. For 3 hours, he just sat in his car assembling the last bomb he would ever make. And at 6:52 p.m., he drove to a busy traffic light and detonated it.
The blast was devastating. 15 innocent people lost their lives that day, and more than 20 were injured. In the days that followed, the remaining members of the cell, including Muzammil, Shaheen, and even the university's corrupt founder, Javed Siddiqui, they were all apprehended. The plot was over, but the cost was just immense.
And that really brings us to the final haunting question, doesn't it? This wasn't a failure to spot some known criminal. This was a failure to see the enemy hiding behind a stethoscope and a medical degree. It really forces us to ask, what creates a monster like this, and how many more could be hiding right in front of us?